PathMonk is the intelligent tool for website lead generation. With increasing online competition, over 98% of website visitors don't convert. The ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in their buying journey separates you from the competition online. PathMonk qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where they are in the buying journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences like case studies, intro videos, and much more. Stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by 50%. Add PathMonk to your website in seconds. Let the AI do all the work and get access to 50% more qualified leads while you keep doing marketing and sales as usual. Check us on pathmonk.com. Welcome to today's episode. Let's talk about today's guest. We have Luke Renner, Head of Marketing at Cyngn. How you doing today, Luke?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on. And well, I'm sure our listeners are tuning in, wondering what Cyngn is all about. So let's kick it off with that. Luke, in your own words, can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cyngn develops and deploys autonomous vehicles for industrial use cases like warehouses, factories, other facilities. We have two main vehicle types that are currently available. So the first is our DriveBot Tugger. It's an autonomous hauler and it can tow up to about 12,000 pounds. And then the second is our DriveBot Forklift. So that's going to be available next year. We're starting to take pre-orders. We're starting to show it off. We're really excited about that one. Cyngn's located in Menlo Park, California, and we do all of the development of our autonomous vehicle software there. And so that really is the brain of our autonomous vehicle offering. And so we bundle that brain, as it were, with off-the-shelf hardware like 3D lidars and other sensors to package the whole thing for end users.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking off the back of my mind right here, when I first started hearing about this, right, I think it was, or the only thing I know about it is kind of like when Amazon started doing all throughout their warehouses and get all that, pick up and move, which is really, really nice to map everything out. So great to hear you guys there at Cyngn doing something like that. And so that way our listeners could get a good understanding of your company, Luke. What are some key problems that you guys like to solve them for clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you already mentioned one, which is Amazon. So Amazon is this huge behemoth in the industries that we're serving. And a lot of companies are really scrambling in order to kind of scale up their operations and bring greater automation to their operations in order to compete with companies like Amazon. More broadly, there really are two main problems that we solve. And these problems are problems that the entire industry has been facing in this moment, particularly in this post-COVID moment where everyone started doing a lot more e-commerce and buying a lot more goods online. So those two main problems, the first is really a labor shortage. So let me give you some stats. Like in 2022, the average turnover rate at a manufacturing facility was around 49%. And, we talked about Amazon. At Amazon, it's closer to 300% of a turnover rate. And what that means is they need to completely replace their entire warehouse workforce 3 times a year. And this labor shortage problem is something that is really pervasive. 77% of manufacturers predict they'll have trouble attracting and retaining workers in the long run. And so autonomous vehicles are a nice contrast to that, right? They never quit, they never take a vacation, and ours can run for 2 or even more than 2 shifts per day. And so the second major challenge that these companies are facing is safety. And according to OSHA, for instance, there's about 50,000 fork-related injuries each year. And in warehousing, we see about 5 safety incidents for every 100 employees. And so safety is, not only is it a huge concern for these companies, it's also a challenge. It's really hard to keep accidents from happening in their busy facility. And so our system has really been designed from the ground up with safety in mind. So we use multiple sensors, multiple systems. We have a ton of redundancy, and it just stops safety risks and safety incidents in their tracks. So those are kind of the macro challenges. And then tactically speaking, our vehicles are best for redundant, repetitive workflows. And so the idea really is that we come into your facility, we switch a task that's been done by a human over and over again to a vehicle that can do it all by itself. And what that means is most people think that once that human is replaced, that human loses their job. But that's not what we're seeing is happening. What we're seeing happens is that human is shifted over and is tasked with doing work that is much more mission driven, requires much more critical thinking, and brings and delivers much more value to the company. And so it enables the company to get more done with the people that they're already employing every day.
Definitely important. I love hearing that, right? I think something that you mentioned, right? The increase in workplace efficiency, reduction in labor costs. I think those companies are looking for that, and to stay up to date with the big companies, right? That they're going in that way. So the only way to compete is having solutions like Cyngn. So awesome to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're in conversations with customers who are like, we would hire 50 more people today if we could. But there's that gap in the availability of workers.
Definitely. And so then, is there a certain, I mean, because you guys have different different automations, right? So you have the vehicles, the tuggers, stock chasers, forklifts. Is there a specific vertical segment? Is there an ideal ICP that you guys like to go for?
Yeah, well, because our vehicles can tow so much, we tend to locate our deployments in manufacturing facilities. So, these companies have big vehicles or big objects that they're building. And so when you can automate 12,000 pounds of hauling, it makes it really easy to move what they're building from station to station or do a supply run with something that can be thousands of pounds. So one example of this, we're really excited. We recently announced that John Deere is one of our customers. And obviously John Deere is an OEM, they're a vehicle manufacturer. And this is a really great use case for us because their products are so heavy. Our vehicles can really kind of come in and bring that hauling force to their operation.
Definitely. I mean, nice, right? I think just thinking when you mentioned that, right? I think hopefully in the future, right? Hopefully I get to see it, but have something like a lawnmower in one case, right? That you guys can have the technology to just do my lawn for me automatically, just map it out. That would be
totally. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone sort of predicted that the way autonomy would sort of move into the world, it would begin on public roads, and then it would kind of filter out to all these other spaces. And what we're finding is that public roads is actually the most complex use case because obviously there's pedestrians, there's a lot more of that risk factor. And so by locating autonomy in controlled places like manufacturing facilities, or to your point, somebody's backyard, you can really serve those workflows and do those jobs in ways where there's just like a lot less chaos, although, having an autonomous lawnmower would introduce its own kind of chaos potentially.
Definitely. All right. Awesome. And so is there, what would you say? I mean, so that way our listeners could go ahead and visit you then. They could always check you out at cyngn.com.
Yeah, that's right. CYNGN.com.
Perfect. All right. Awesome. What role does a website then play for client acquisition?
Yeah, for us, the website is just a huge part of our acquisition. So everything on the digital side flows to our website. Obviously, we really prefer it this way so that we retain control of the leads we're generating, the audience we're building. We don't, for instance, want to do there's forms and different campaigns that you can run on LinkedIn. We've opted not to take advantage of any of those on-site campaigns and just really encourage people to come to our website, fill out our forms. Then that way we really, like I said, retain control of the audience that we're building there.
All right. And on that note, then, is there any tools or tips or methods that you would recommend to our listeners as far as some website lead generation?
Yeah. So, I think one of the things that is a major strength of Cyngn's website and the story that we're telling is our video content. I have a film school background. I went to USC's like School of Cinema Television. And so I shoot and edit all of the videos myself. And, you know, you can come onto set with these vehicles. You can add colored lights, slick editing, good cuts, and we're really able to tell that story pretty easily. Audiences can watch 3 seconds of a video driving around and they get it. The value is just so clear. And so, for me, I think like being really conscious of that visual story has had a huge impact on our brand and the growth of our company. The other thing I would say, like, just in terms of like optimizing the message and really dialing in the story that we're telling our prospects and the people who come to our site, is really just kind of staying committed to the enough about me, let's talk about you rule. And what I mean by that is that I think what we're doing is so complex and so technical, and we're really excited by the technology that we're developing. I think it's easy to sort of over communicate and over talk about the technology itself. The reality is customers don't much care about how your product works. And they especially don't care at that stage of the funnel where they're maybe just coming onto your website and learning about what you can do. The work, the intention is really for you to focus on what you can do for them. So I'll give you an example. We have a safety page on our website where we talk about our safety record. We talk about how, we ensure safety, right? And one of the things that we found, like one of the things that we used to talk about a lot is the fact that we use a 3D LiDAR. And the 3D LiDAR gives the safety system like 32,000 individual data points of information that our algorithms use to make judgments about the environment, about people who are walking in the environment, objects in the environment, and can use that information to make split-second decisions about safety. But like I said, what we found is that our customers are less interested in some of those specifics and much more interested in just the fact that our system is like exceedingly sort of predictably, like almost boringly safe. And that is really enough for them to kind of get the value of the investments that we've made in our safety stack. So I would say that's that's like a big takeaway. How does it help the customer? Are we orienting our messaging toward their needs and their desires? And then if you want, I'll give you just one more really quick tip, which we call the 5-second rule. And the goal of the 5-second rule is like, we just acknowledge that we live in a TikTok age. Everything needs to be consumed very, very quickly. And so oftentimes we'll have meetings where we'll show a section of our website for just 5 seconds, pull it away, and ask people to reflect on what information they learned and what they gathered. And that has really helped us kind of bring complex topics and simplify them. It's really helped us ensure that we're communicating the most important thing. And so, yeah, those are kind of the 3 tips I would leave you with. Use a lot of visual language, think about the customer, and communicate information quickly.
Definitely some great tips there from you. Thank you so much for sharing with us that, Luke, for our listeners. And well, let's switch gears a little bit, Luke, and let's talk about you being a leader there for Cyngn, you being the head of marketing there. What are some key tasks you like to focus on your day-to-day work?
Yeah, absolutely. So, at Cyngn, my primary responsibilities are to coordinate with other departments and with my leadership to really ensure that the marketing team is delivering on the most important things at any given time. So when you're a startup, there's a lot going on. There's a ton of challenges. And then also you have fewer resources and a smaller team. And so you really need to get good at that kind of prioritization piece. You really need to make sure that at any given moment, your team is like focused on the highest priority tasks. So my day is really spent ensuring kind of over and over again, what we're working on is the most important thing at the moment. We have a lot of stakeholders at our company, right? we're the primary team when it comes to like creating assets, writing comms, doing messaging. So we'll have deliverables for people across the business. This can be like the sales team with sales enablement, or the investor relations team if we're issuing a press release. Product team will need stuff, customer success team. So I see my role is really about that coordination piece. In addition, I work with people on my team. Some are very experienced, some are more junior. And I also see it as a really important part of my role to make sure that I, share the experience that I've had, and I really bring my team up, empower them to do more and more things day in and day out, and really kind of give them the tools they need to succeed in marketing. Because until they move to like a huge company like a Google, for instance, their value on a marketing team is really going to be driven by how much of generalists that they can be, how many different things that I can hand off to them, and know that it's going to get done perfectly. So that sort of ongoing training, I also see as a big part of my role, so that I can really free my team up to do as much as they possibly can in the precious 8 hours that we have every day to move the business forward.
All right, awesome, great to hear that from you, Luke. And let's jump into our next section here then, which is our rapid fire question rounds. Are you ready for them?
Okay, sure.
All right. First off then is, what is the last book that you read?
So I just finished up, it was a fiction book. It was called The Sympathizer by Viet Thanh Nguyen, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Pulitzer Prize winning book about a Vietnamese spy who comes to America right at the fall of Saigon. Great book. Really loved it. Would highly recommend it.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Great read there. Next then is, what is one single thing that your company is focused on at the moment the most?
Right now, we as a company are focused on the full commercialization of our vehicles. So, for the previous few years, we've really been in an R&D phase. And in the last couple of years, we've really converted our team and our vision and our focus on generating new leads, new customers, and new revenue.
Now, if there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be that one thing that you want to have fixed for your role as a marketer today?
Yeah, so I have recently read a book called Growth Levers by Matt Renner. He came up on PayPal, and he's really sort of built a brand for himself about helping startups grow their business more quickly. And one of the points that he makes in the book is that in some ways, marketing can be a little bit more challenging than even being a software engineer. And the reason he says is that, while the challenges of the software engineer might be kind of complex, the problems that they face are ultimately solvable. And then for marketers, there's much less certainty, right? It's more like pharmaceutical development, in that you sort of have to run tons of experiments in order to find the right thing. And in the case of marketing, in order to find the levers that are going to drive growth, right? So to answer your question, I would love for there to be a technology that enabled marketing teams, particularly startup marketing teams, to run such experiments with much less need for, strategy, hands-on intention, and things like that. I mean, I think it would be wonderful if there was some AI that could take a look at your business, take a look at your investor deck, and spit out a playbook that marketers could follow to grow companies in sort of an almost guaranteed way. And it sounds a little fantastical now, but I think where we're heading with AI is that AI is really going to be able to sort of synthesize a lot of the lessons that a lot of companies have learned by just doing the hard work of marketing, and really convert that into some systems that even people with zero marketing experience would be able to repeat over and over again. So I think that's coming, and it's going to help. It's going to help marketing teams everywhere a lot.
Definitely would agree with you on that, Luke. So thank you so much for the insight. Next then is, if there's one repetitive task that you could automate, what would that be?
I would say for our team, it's writing press releases. So we are a publicly traded company, and so we have a responsibility to communicate with the market. We like to do it on a fairly regular basis. And the press releases they're repetitive, but they're also really rigorous, right? They have exacting standards. They require stakeholders to sign off from both like the finance team, the legal team, the executive team. And so if I could totally automate the creation and publication of press releases, that would be nice.
Okay, great. Then lastly, Luke, I mean, you have a lot of experience already in the marketing world, but what is that one piece of advice that you would give yourself if you were to restart your journey as a marketer today?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned as I've come up in my role as head of marketing for like a publicly traded company like Cyngn is probably just to fail faster. The more experiments you can run on your team, the sooner you can turn things off that aren't working and double down on things that are. There's a lot of playbooks out there. There's a lot of tactics. And so the work, especially when you're at a young company, the work is really to figure out which of those tactics are going to work best for your business. And as soon as you can answer that question, and as quickly as you can answer that question, then that's when you really start to see the step changes that, that legends are made of, I guess.
Definitely. All right. Got some great advice there for not just yourself, but for everybody that's tuning in, Luke. And well, we are coming to the end of the show here, Luke. But before we do end, I do want to give you the last word. If someone forgets everything about the interview today, what is that one thing they should remember about Cyngn?
The main thing they should remember about Cyngn is that our autonomous vehicles can haul 12,000 pounds. That's the thing we're most excited about. But on the marketing side, I know that you have a lot of marketers listening to this podcast. The main takeaway would be about the image system. Really focus on getting your brand's visual story right. It's not an afterthought. It's not something that can be done with stock images. You need to really invest in telling that visual story, because it's those images, whether you're a robotics company like we are or a SaaS company, those images are really going to stick in people's brain and move your company forward. So if you look at your website and it's a little unsavory looking, then you have some work to do.
All right, perfect, awesome, some great there for our listeners. And well, Luke, I do want to thank you for being on with us today. And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on our next episode at PathMonk Presents. Thanks a lot, Luke.
Bye.